Wednesday 13th of July 2022, 5:30 p.m. College of Engineering and Physical Sciences, Wednesday 13th of July 2022, 5:30 p.m. College of Engineering and Physical Sciences, Wednesday 13th of July 2022, 5:30 p.m. College of Engineering and Physical Sciences, Wednesday 13th of July 2022, 5:30 p.m. College of Engineering and Physical Sciences, Wednesday 13th of July 2022, 5:30 p.m. College of Engineering and Physical Sciences, Wednesday 13th of July 2022, 5:30 p.m. College of Engineering and Physical Sciences, Wednesday 13th of July 2022, 5:30 p.m. College of Engineering and Physical Sciences, Wednesday 13th of July 2022, 5:30 p.m. College of Engineering and Physical Sciences, Wednesday 13th of July 2022, 5:30 p.m. Congratulations to our University of Birmingham graduates. Here we are in the Great Hall at the heart of the Edgbaston campus. Attendees, mostly graduates and their friends and family, are seated. Here are the student musicians. It's great to see them returning to ceremonies following the pandemic. Now we're getting started. Here's the first of our 2 mace bearers beginning the ceremony. The centenary mace bearer is usually a staff member who has volunteered to take part in the ceremony. The mace bearer enters through the back of the Great Hall and leads a procession of staff to the stage. Squire Bedell, who is the second of the 2 mace bearers, follows. Are placed on the stage for the duration of the ceremony.
I declare this congregation open.
Good afternoon, and as Provost of this university, it's my very great pleasure to welcome you today to your graduation. And in fact, let's start by thanking our fabulous musicians for all the great entertainment. As we start our celebration, please look around you. This is a stunning venue in which to celebrate your achievements, a hall that first opened more than 100 years ago. In recent times, there has been row after row of desks set out for exams, enough to strike fear into every student heart, and indeed many of the faculty. On this stage, distinguished speakers have given lectures and speeches, and opposing sides have engaged in heartfelt and heated debates. We have welcomed international conferences and religious festivals, celebratory dinners, and even the odd wedding or two. This great hall has also had some less obvious uses over the years. During the First World War, it was converted into a military hospital, and you might have been a soldier returned from the front lines or a nurse treating the wounded. In the Second World War, it became a gym, and you could have been training hard on a pommel horse. In the 1960s, you'd have been watching the latest films at a pop-up cinema. In the 70s and 80s, you might have been playing in the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, which recorded more than 50 albums here over 2 decades. And very recently, and perhaps less glamorously, you might have had a swab stuck up your nose at our COVID testing facility. You are now part of the history of this building, but more importantly, the history of this great university. Think back to when you first arrived here, or for those of you who started during the pandemic, when you first logged on to a Zoom call. You will have experienced excitement, but probably also some trepidation that you wouldn't fit in, or that you wouldn't be able to tackle the challenges ahead. And as you progress through your degree, there will have been times where the decisions you needed to make seemed clear and obvious, but others when you weren't sure what to do next. There will have been concepts, problems, or ideas that inspired you, and others that frankly made your brain hurt. I'm sure you'll have attended lectures that filled you with knowledge and sparked your imagination, although possibly there may have been some others that felt as if they perhaps went on just a bit too long. Outside of your academic efforts, you'll have made new friends, some of whom you will remain friends with for many years to come. Treasure these special people. You will support each other during life's ups and downs, and no matter where you go in the world, a call or a message from any of them will make you smile. I hope that as you look back on all of this, you will recognize what you have achieved, that you may have started out with self-doubt and uncertainty, but you've achieved anyway. That you can make friends when thrown into new situations, and that you can inspire and be inspired by others. I hope that your time at this university has given you many fantastic memories that will stay with you forever. As you reflect today on your experiences at Birmingham and on your graduation, you should rightly be proud of the personal qualities you have shown. But I know that all of you will agree that it couldn't have been done alone. It takes a university to produce a graduate. During your time here, you will have been taught by some of the best lecturers in the world and been inspired by their enthusiasm and knowledge of their area. You will also have been supported in many ways by the tutors and student support team around you. This is a really good moment for our graduates to thank all those who supported you during your time here, some of whom are sat behind me on this great stage. So a big round of applause for those that have helped you. And as I look directly in front of me, I see many people with very proud faces. Many will have a tear in their eye or a lump in their throats as you walk up onto this stage to graduate. There will be people watching online or elsewhere who will be thinking of you now and who are extremely proud of everything you have achieved. You will all have that person or those people who believed in you, people who supported you and showed you kindness, and without whom you wouldn't be here today. So again, a round of applause from our graduates for all the families and friends at the front. Very soon, you will come up onto this stage, and I will admit you to your degree. Remember, this is your moment. When your name is read out, that will be your graduation. And for family and friends here at the front, it is your cue to make a lot, and I mean a lot, of noise. Lots of clapping, lots of cheering, lots of whooping when the graduates come up to graduate. And my final advice to our graduates, please be careful on the steps. Remember to give a big smile at the cameras, and please enjoy your moment. My warmest congratulations to you all. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Professor Bill Chaplin, the Head of Physics and Astronomy. Provost and Vice Principal, to you and to the University, I present the names of these graduands as listed in my programme, both in attendance and in absentia, proved worthy to be admitted to their respective degrees.
By virtue of my authority as Provost, I admit those persons listed in the programme to the degrees to which they are to be presented.
College of Engineering and Physical Sciences, School of Physics and Astronomy, Doctor of Philosophy. For research into enabling technologies for miniaturized optical lattice clocks, Jonathan Bass. Chiara Di Fronzo. For research into controlling quantum fluctuations of light for better imaging and measurements, Eleanor Fragile. For research into molecular self-assembly, Megan Gross. For research into astronomical investigations of exoplanets, including their detection and the characterization of their orbital parameters, Vedad Hodzik. For research into strange particle enhancements in high-energy proton-led interactions in ALICE at the CERN Large Hadron Collider, Oliver Thomas Jevons. For research into reducing quantum wiggles in future gravitational wave observatories, Philip James Jones. For research into fundamental properties of strongly interacting particles, Jacob Kavapel. For research into the production of multiple force-carrying particles with the ATLAS experiment at the CERN Large Hadron Collider, Daniel James Lewis. For For research into nuclear clustering and the structure of light, neutron-rich nuclei, Stuart Hamilton Pirrie. For research into searches for new physics using dileptons at the LHC, Jonathan Peter Plews. For research into new production methods of terbium theragnostic isotopes and the exploration of positron emission tomography for industrial applications, Rebecca Rachel Trinder. For research into inertial isolation for gravitational wave observatories, Amit Ubi. For research into the theory of knotting and tangling in random physical systems, Anda Xiong. Master of Research, Edward Irwin. Master of Science, Nuclear Decommissioning and Waste Management, Thomas George Warren. Physics and Technology of Nuclear Reactors, Brandon James Gray. Eduardo Tado Santos Gomez Montero. Master in Science, Physics, Alexander Michael Hobley Agnew. Lawrence Gabriel Harry Allen. Lewis James Allison. Joshua Charles Barras. Sophie Bouchinger. Paul Vincent Bell. Joel Bridgewater. Louis Joseph Butt. Ho Yin Chai. Michael Chambers. Jack William Cole. Harry Wilfred Dexter. Filippo Falezza. Nicholas Fieldhouse. Matthew Forward. Sophie Louise Gibbons. Catherine Neve Holmes. Callum Honeyball. Jonathan Howard. Ryan Douglas Hull. William Jackson. Aaron William Leonard Johnson. Chandler Kenworthy. Ethan James King. Eric Hien Lung Liu. Lawrence Daniel McNeilis. Lex K. Millins. Callum Mark Rest. Harry Joshua Rhodes. Kyle Graham Robinson. Sam Alexander Sivier. Li Hao Shi. David Shipman. Luke Strange. Zhengchuan Tang. Jack Thomas. Yaziao Xu. Physics and Astrophysics, Eduardo Concepcion Castro. Gus Cowan. Kieran Dodge. Maria Anotiade. Alex Freckleton. Adam Gibbons. William Frederick Hamey. Emily Lauren Rose Hatfield. Gwenlian Evan. Ellie Megan Lane. Matthew Amar Logue. Aravind Manivanan. Nguyen Minh Kang. Neve Catherine O'Sullivan. Jessica Pilling. Catherine Victoria Sadler. Laurie Sporer. Physics and Astrophysics with Foundation Year, Benjamin Paul Jones. Physics with Particle Physics and Cosmology, Jeremy Atkinson. Sophia Cassadai. Shivani Kapoor. Marcus Madurai. Samuel Felipe Azevedo Magalhaes. Daniel Morris. Jessica Ann Pringle. Andrew Smith. Andrew James White. Theoretical Physics, Henry Allen. Carlos Benborges Camacho. Francesca Ann Boswava. Dylan Edwards. Molly Gibbons. Luke Hands. Joseph Jones. Patrick Garrett Kelsey. Raluca Pantilli. Gus Riccardio. Owen Matthew Rowell. Emmanuel Spellman. Kane Vice Peacock. Cameron Walker. Joshua Waddell. Samuel Wood. Theoretical Physics and Applied Mathematics, Joseph Burridge. Zoe Charlotte Goddard. Shreyas Kanyadi. Alex John Taylor. Edward William Thomas. Samuel Walker. Theoretical Physics and Applied Mathematics with year in Computer Science, Stephen Mackey. Bachelor of Science, Physics, Caris Baker. Benjamin Christopher Breer. Rohan Chopra. Alex Duncalf. Edward England. Joshua Gladstone.
Provost and Vice Principal, Pro-Vice Chancellor, members of the University, graduates, graduands and guests. Professor Jim Al-Khalili is, without doubt, a true modern-day polymath. A prolific author, a humanist, an acclaimed broadcaster, a historian and a great teacher, an inspiration to those at the back of the hall today, and not a bad subject for an inaugural oration. He's primarily, however, a thoroughbred, award-winning physicist. There are no real distractions from his path to this greatness, aside perhaps from a minor aspiration to play for Reeves Leeds United during those glory years. But no significant distractions like other contemporary physics communicators performing at Diamond Jubilee concerts or to the Queen and the Prime Minister at the Millennium Dome. Professor Al-Khalili, or Jim, as he's affectionately known to his listeners, has had and continues to have a most remarkable career. There are, of course, likely to be many reasons for this, but one imagines that the contrast between a paternal engineer and a maternal artist would have provided a fertile ground for a young, inquisitive mind. Given Professor Al-Khalili's pedigree, it's surprising, therefore, to learn from his own Life scientific interview that it was, in fact, his brother who was the geek in his family. That, ladies and gentlemen, from the nuclear physicist, suggests we may have discovered a new level of geek. Jim graduated from Surrey in 1986 in physics and took a first-class degree. He continued his studies and in 1989 was awarded his PhD in nuclear reaction theory. Afterwards, moving to UCL for 2 years as a postdoctoral research fellow working under the supervision of the nuclear physicist Colin Wilkins. Those at the back of the room may recognise the surname. His time as a postdoctoral researcher led to several papers that would be instrumental in his highly respected work on neutron halos. He returned to Surrey in 1992 as a lecturer, and there he remains building his extraordinarily distinguished career, both in theoretical nuclear physics and also popularising science through the written word and as a ubiquitous television and radio presenter. Jim, though, is a physicist through and through. His chair in public engagement was created for him at Surrey, and many an academic would have been content to stop at this point. But notably, and on his insistence, his promotion from senior lecturer to chair had ultimately to be judged on his academic credentials. In 2005, he was promoted simultaneously to a chair in physics and the first chair in the public engagement in science at the University of Surrey, supercharging his passion for both. His awards and distinctions are numerous. In 2007, Jim became the youngest recipient of the Royal Society's Michael Faraday Medal and Prize. This was his first big prize and the prize that he is perhaps most proud of. However, of the many awards and accolades he's received, it is in fact the Stephen Hawking Medal that he has the most affection for. As the inaugural recipient of the Scientific Community Medal, he was handpicked by Professor Hawking and received the medal from the great man himself in 2016. There are, of course, many other accolades and honours, including a 2011 Institute of Physics Kelvin Medal and Prize, a clutch of honorary degrees, election as a Fellow of the Royal Society, as well as an OBE and CBE for services to science and public engagement in STEM. Amidst all of this, Jim still teaches undergraduates at Surrey, including an integral module entitled The Universe that encompasses special relativity, cosmology and astronomy to first-year students. His prolific public engagement and broadcasting work does not stop him from making time to meet with students. He is, in fact, Surrey's secret weapon for admissions days and was, up until just 6 years ago, the department's admissions tutor, a post he held for 10 years. If you ask him about this, he'll modestly say he gives an interesting lecture. He is rightly proud of the fact that in his 30 years as an academic, he's not taken a sabbatical or never missed a single year of teaching. His public activities ebb and flow, and now he's at a stage in his career where he can be flexible, fitting in book signings and festivals around research and marking. Jim, though, is as philanthropic with his time as his career is distinguished, interacting with students well beyond Surrey, including our own here at Birmingham. His message to our students was the talk of the School of Physics, I'm told, for many weeks. On receiving an email informing him of his inclusion as a Quantum Mechanics Researcher of the Week, he recorded a video message for our students about how they might want to think about the, and I'll quote here, mathematically beautiful or conceptually challenging material. And if I interpret that for you, that's academic speak for jolly difficult. This is the only time that Professor Wilkins has heard spontaneous applause in her lectures. Jim, though, is back to perhaps what he enjoys most, leading a Templeton Foundation project exploring quantum thermodynamics and biology with the Arrow of Time, a project that has the minor aims of revolutionising fundamental physics and inspiring wider society. He now leads PhD students, researchers across the globe on interdisciplinary blue sky research. The excitement, when you talk to him about this in his voice, is palpable. There's no doubt that he continues to be curiosity-driven. In his Physics World Ask Me Anything interview, Jim, reflecting on what he may change if he were to start his career today, notes that his approach to controversial subjects, the interpretations of quantum mechanics, for example, may well be very different, being far less concerned about what others may think. Why, one may ask, and I'll quote again, that is quite normal for scientists as they enter their dotage. They have much less to lose if they are controversial. I think we all can agree, Jim, that we look forward to you reading your dotage and to this. It seems entirely fitting, therefore, that our great university should add to Jim's CV of distinction by recognising his exceptional contribution to theoretical nuclear physics and for his work in the public engagement of science through an honorary degree here today. And so, Provost, to you and to the university, I present Professor Jim Al-Khalili, deemed worthy of admission to the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa.
And by virtue of my authority as Provost, I admit you to your degree, Doctor of Science, honoris causa. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Carl, for those very generous and cringe-worthy words. I need my glasses because I have reached my dotage, and I do need. I used to be printing scripts in 16-point font and then realised that's silly. You just don't get enough words on a line. So I've dropped down to 12-point with glasses. Provost, Provost-Chancellor, graduates, graduands, and guests, I do feel immensely proud to receive this honorary degree from the University of Birmingham. I've visited the university on numerous occasions over the course of my career, in all sorts of capacities. I've been here on research visits, to attend meetings, workshops, conferences, to give invited talks, schools talks. I was even here a few years ago doing some BBC filming. And so, of course, there are many academics here that I count as both colleagues and friends. And it's now lovely to be officially more closely associated with them through the award of this honorary degree. The School of Physics and Astronomy in particular is somewhat familiar to me. It has an illustrious history, of course, which I'm sure many of the graduands are aware of. Well, graduates for one half of the hall, right? So now that you've received your, you've come up on stage. Going back to the late 19th century and the university's first professor of physics, John Henry Poynting, after whom the main physics department building is named today. And during the Second World War, when Sir John Randall worked on radar, and nuclear physicists Otto Frisch and Rudolf Peierls put together the famous Frisch-Peierls Memorandum. In fact, it was in nuclear physics that so much has been achieved here, with familiar names, well, to me at least, like Sir Mark Oliphant, who became the Poynting Professor of Physics back in 1937, and more recently, people like Bill Bertram and George Morrison. Then, of course, there are the contemporaries of mine who are still here and who've worked within the Nuclear Physics Research Group. Group leaders like Martin Freer, Peter Jones, David Evans. There are many other colleagues of mine here that I regard as co-collaborators in research, people I may have spent late nights with in bars at conferences. But for you, the graduands, they are your lecturers. I won't name all the people I know in the physics department. I've been very lucky in my career. I've spent my time over the past 25 years splitting my efforts between traditional academic duties, as you just heard, of teaching and research on the one hand, and public engagement in broadcasting, public speaking and writing on the other. Early in my career as a nuclear physicist, I followed the traditional academic route and focused on securing research grants in nuclear physics, as well as research fellowships, all with the aim of securing a permanent academic position. But once that had been achieved, I became a bit restless. Yes, I still enjoyed research more than anything else, but I found the notion that we learn what we do about some aspect of nature, of how the world works, after many months or even years of effort, usually funded by public taxes, and then publishing it in a journal that will be read by just a handful of experts in the field before moving on to the next project in a continuing publish or perish cycle. I found that all very strange. What's the point of learning something new about the world if we don't then do something with it, or at the very least, tell the world about it? And by that I don't just mean those other experts in the field stuck in their own ivory towers, but wider society too. I've been most gratified in recent years to see that communicating science to the public has become not only a respectable enterprise taken up by many active scientists, but also acknowledged as an important responsibility. Today, I'd argue that the UK leads the world, probably by a decade, in the public engagement in science, whether it's through broadcasting, writing, social media, blogs, podcasts, public forums like science festivals, to the extent that I'd argue that C.P. Snow's famous Cambridge lecture about the two cultures, the sciences on the one hand and the arts on the other, and that they would never come together, well, I think there's a strong case in arguing that they're closer now than they've ever been before. Certainly, there's a strong case for arguing that science has entered popular culture. Science stories, where there are discoveries in astronomy, like those wonderful images we're seeing from NASA now, from the Webb telescope, or from particle physics, or genetics, or breakthroughs in medicine, or innovations in technology. These are now all part and becoming part of the general conversation in wider society, alongside the arts, politics, and sport. And wouldn't we rather talk about looking at the latest discoveries of exoplanets than following the Conservative Party leadership contest, for example? But there's also another more urgent need to communicate. We live in a world facing monumental challenges in healthcare due to rapid technological advances or the wider issues with the wider environment and climate change. It's clear that scientists can no longer afford to remain quiet when populist movements try to shout down the forces of reason and rationalism with uninformed opinion and an irrational denial of scientific evidence. I believe it's the responsibility and duty of those of us public scientists, and of course you have your very own Alice Roberts here at Birmingham University. It's our duty not just to pat ourselves on the back for our latest media success, but to use our public platforms to argue for the importance of rational inquiry, to push back against this insidious spread of self-congratulatory ignorance, and to fight for evidence-based policies and the importance of a scientifically literate populace. For me, to a large extent, while my broadcasting work continues, such as hosting Radio 4's Life Scientific now in its 11th year, I have returned to my roots of research. As you heard earlier, I now have 5 PhD students, a couple of postdocs. I collaborate with other academics in other areas outside of physics, chemists, philosophers, mathematicians. In fact, probably now more research active than I've been for 20 years. Public engagement is fulfilling and important, but fundamental research really is in my DNA. Days like today are wonderful occasions for everyone. For the university staff, obviously for the families of the students, and of course, most importantly, the graduands themselves, who've spent the past few years working hard, and in particular, having to navigate through the past difficult 2 years of the pandemic. Now, you're all ready to head off into the wider world to put your knowledge to work. So today really is a day to cherish and remember. I may only be here receiving an honorary degree, but I assure you it means just as much to me. So if I may, on behalf of everyone graduating here today, I'd like to thank the University of Birmingham for this wonderful honour. Thank you very much.
Provost and Vice Principal, to you and to the University, I present the names of these graduands as listed in my programme. Both in attendance and in absentia proved worthy to be admitted to their respective degrees. Bachelor of Science, Physics, Sian Jones-Davis. Jonathan Klein. Charlie Catherine Rose. Ben McKaylee Shep. Tom Waltham. Ellie Mae Whitehall. Eli Weiner. Mo Zhou. Physics and Astrophysics, Ho Yat Chow. Jessica Elizabeth Davis. Megan James. Claire Rebecca Lewis. Fatima Omar. Jarpreet Singh. Gagandip Singh. Physics with Particle Physics and Cosmology, Mitchell James Weaver. Theoretical Physics, Joseph Brennan. Oliver Ben Coughlin. Fionn Half Evans. Aaron Gibbs. Rachel Jane Goodwin. Lauren Rebecca Jones. William Orchard. Matthew Paskin. Samuel Michael Richards. Susanna Margaret Caroline Shanley. George Andrew Stevenson. Faye Woodhouse. Theoretical Physics and Applied Mathematics, Richard Dean. School of Metallurgy and Materials, Doctor of Philosophy. For research into recycling of rare earth magnets, Mohammed Awas. For research on 3D printing of biomedical titanium alloys, Wei-Han Kong. For research into the manufacturing and characterization of fiber optic acoustic emission sensors, James Owen Wilbury. For research into materials for nuclear fission and fusion, Ella Young. Doctor of Philosophy with Integrated Study, for research into additive manufacturing of nickel superalloys for aero engine applications, Rachel Elizabeth Jennings. For research into plasma modification of carbon fibers, Yana Liang. Master of Engineering, Aerospace Engineering, Alex Chu. Brandon Harris. Mohammed Halim Khan. Ollie Reynolds. Joshua Ruck. Kishan Sokotra. Jack Smith. Material Science and Engineering, Thomas Donald Cowell. Joseph Michael Burnett Grezel Farthing. James Griffith. Lydia Margaret Kerris Hemmings. Andrew Ibude. Gregor Lockhart Smith. Abhishar Marandran. Greta Mariani. Kira Memi. Jed Robinson Wall. Georgie Roy. Matthew Trevor Sangster. Amy Alice Smith. Mechanical and Materials Engineering, Alice Thorne. Lewis Watterson. Nuclear Engineering, Alex Booth. Nicholas Dimitrov. Samuel Harding. Kabir Kumar. Jatinga Singh. Bachelor of Engineering, Aerospace Engineering, Samir Ali. Samuel Robert Birch. Rafada Haramain. Alexander Henton. Rumana Hussain. Wutar Teojin Xuan. Maya Mahal. Daniel Robert Walker. Aerospace Engineering with Year Abroad, Alyssa Sophie Marie Mills. Material Science and Engineering, Ado Ragbeni, Owamadalai Larai Adabay. Kamrul Alam. Zaina Ali. Syra Asif. Zaid Banji. Taylor Brew. Phoebe Cutts. Archie Hallett. Erin Victoria Hayes. Minhas Hock. Wei Huang. Levi Hudlin. Sophia Hussain. Anas Khoury. Jack Maybe. George McKenna. Zara Kalila Nasuchian. Jiawen Pan. Annabelle Webby. Letian Yang. Material Science and Engineering with a year in Computer Science, Sarah Ahmed. Montakan Lert Kietakan. Rahima Syed. Material Science and Engineering with Industrial Experience, Alexander Dessy. Mechanical and Materials Engineering, Callum Hodson. Erin Claudia Metcalf. Thomas Alexander Rowley. Bachelor of Science, Aerospace Technology, George Lutfi George Garai. Zain Gull. Nuclear Science and Materials, Temitope Ewagbora. Taylor Nicholas Bernard. Freya Elizabeth Bone. Harry Gabrielle Mosley. Joseph Pawley. Dominic Stajkowski. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Alex Dessy, the student representative who will give a speech on behalf of the graduating cohort.
Thank you very much. In May 2005, the writer David Foster Wallace delivered a graduation speech at Kenyon College, Ohio. He began like this: "There are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods and says, 'Morning, boys, how's the water?' The two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, 'What the hell is water?'" Between other apposite parables, Wallace urged the graduating students to question their certainty, to harness their newly endowed powers of critical thinking to be just a little less arrogant. In his words, "A huge percentage of the stuff I tend to be automatically certain of is, it turns out, totally wrong and deluded." Observing the refractive nature of this lens of self through which we all experience the world in our lives, and recalibrating our awareness to keep from going through adulthood unconscious and alone, is what Wallace saw as the true value of a university education. The speech was intended not as an espousal of moral virtues or as a blueprint for a life of peace. It was intended as a reminder that on any given day we have the choice to see things differently, to consider life in the shoes of the erratic driver slowing your commute, of that haggard mother lacking the will to quiet her screaming infant, of the university professors on strike outside the North Gate. He continued, "It will be within your power to experience a crowded, hot, slow, consumer hell-type situation as not only meaningful, but sacred, on fire with the same force that made the stars, love, fellowship, the mystical oneness of all things deep down." 3 years later, on September 12, 2008, David Foster Wallace was found dead in his California home. He had committed suicide. Now, a lot can happen in 3 years, as we all know. Since most of us joined this institution, a paradigm-shifting pandemic, worldwide political upheavals, and the outbreak of war in Europe have challenged our understanding of modern life. Terrible stuff happens every day, and most of us have the displeasure of being constantly tuned in. Our coping mechanisms oscillate between cold cynicism and distracting irony. At least we can take a nice picture of the sunset for Instagram. But we have been privileged enough to spend these years in Birmingham, the beating heart of Britain, a city so vibrant I have felt my perspectives, and sometimes my accent, changing weekly. I was going to say something about Old Joe being an abiding timekeeper, ticking on through all seasons and reminding us to keep the faith. But unfortunately, the clock was broken for about 18 months. But it's fixed now, so I hope all you graduates have stood beneath the arches during the chimes, safe in the knowledge that you cannot now fail your degree. We may never truly understand what led David Foster Wallace to decide he could not carry on, and maybe that's the point. Maybe, just like he's told those students in 2005, not he, nor I, nor anyone can truly know what life is like for somebody else, and that is what life is like for everyone else. We have held our friends as they cried into our shoulders, and we have held their fists in the air as they celebrate their success. Then and now, all we ever had and all we will ever have is the present moment. So choose. Choose life. Choose a walk in the woods. Choose a song that makes your heart flutter. Choose a call with your mum about your broken washing machine. But most of all, choose to make that choice and resist that creeping urge to switch to autopilot. To return to Foster Wallace one last time, he wrote, "What passes for hip, cynical transcendence of sentiment is really some kind of fear of really being human, since to be really human is probably to be unavoidably sentimental and naive and goo-prone and generally pathetic." And what I think that boils down to is that sincerity is scary. It's scary for me to stand up here and tell my parents that I love them, to express my gratitude to the Metallurgy and Materials Department for helping me break the world into little bits and put it back together again, to acknowledge my dear friends in the audience who have likely rolled their eyes enough during this speech, and to congratulate my fellow graduates on what is an achievement of a lifetime, but certainly not the achievement of our lifetimes. So as I conclude this message and walk off this stage, I want everyone in here, without forgetting to applaud me because I need that, to take a little step in overcoming that fear. Turn to the people you are here with, and to anyone sitting near you who might be here alone, and I want you to smile. And I want you to tell them how grateful you are to be here on this radiant day on this historic campus, surrounded by all these beautiful people. And I want you to go out and celebrate. Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much, Alex, and thank you, Jim, for your wise words, and congratulations to you both on your degrees. As Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Head of the College of Engineering and Physical Sciences, it's an enormous pleasure to be part of your graduation ceremony and to celebrate your achievements with you. Very many congratulations to everyone graduating today. It's an enormous achievement, and you should all be extremely proud. From its beginnings in the 1900s as England's first civic university, we have welcomed people of all faiths and backgrounds to this university, and it's been a home to some truly inspiring people. If you walk down the corridors either side of the Great Hall, you will see artifacts and prototypes, manuscripts, photographs that tell the stories of groundbreaking developments undertaken by this university. This includes the work by Sir Peter Medawar, who won a Nobel Prize on organ transplants, and the work of two dentists who invented the first airbags after treating servicemen with severe facial injuries from vehicle accidents sustained during the First World War. These are just a few of the examples of how we change lives through research. And we've also impacted on the world around us in other ways. If, on your way out of the Great Hall, you go the other direction, towards the Bramall Building, you will see posters and photos telling the story of the university's role in local and international music culture. Everything from Sister Bliss to The Cure, through to Joy Division's last ever concert. Across the world, we have thousands of alumni working in every conceivable industry. We are proud to be hosting the Commonwealth Games. Hockey and squash will be here in a couple of weeks' time, where Birmingham students and alumni will be representing their countries in 9 sports, including swimming, judo, and athletics. And it is, I think, a remarkable statistic that a third of the England women's hockey team studied at Birmingham. So good luck to them, and we wish them well, of course. I'm genuinely proud to be standing here on behalf of a university where inspirational people do inspirational things, where every day we have the ability to change lives for the better. And today I'm inspired by what you have all achieved, and your energy, I think, and determinism and character is very evident as you come up on stage here, and I think that that's a fantastic spark that you all demonstrate. So as you embark on the next chapter of your lives, you may know exactly what you're going to do, or indeed you may still be considering a range of options. But, of course, the future is in your hands, and you will find the path that is right for you. Your experiences at Birmingham have provided you with a fantastic academic grounding, but you've also honed a range of transferable skills. You can analyse critical information, drawing conclusions from complex data sets and scenarios. You're well practiced, I think, at discussing and debating issues with respect and understanding the importance of having an open mind to views of others. And together these skills will allow you to make a difference to the world. Use these skills well. Work hard. Take opportunities as they arise. If someone asks, then say yes. And remember to help and support those around you, whatever your line of work. In a few minutes, you'll walk out of this hall as graduates of the University of Birmingham and celebrate in the Green Heart with your fellow students, family and friends. And of course, this marks the end of one chapter in your life and the beginning of many adventures to come. But you will always remain part of our alumni family, and we will always be here for you. Our careers service remains open to you, and our fantastic alumni relations team run events for graduates and keep in contact with alumni across the world. After you've finished celebrating today, you'll have time for a few quiet moments of reflection. And when this happens, think of your time here, the people who have supported you, about your success and what you have learnt, both academically and about yourself as a person. Be proud graduates of the University of Birmingham. Seize opportunities as they arise. Challenge norms. Don't tolerate injustice. And be kind to others, and be kind to yourselves. You and those around you have many reasons to be proud today. Many congratulations to all our graduates, and good luck and good fortune in everything to come. Class of 2022, well done, congratulations.
And I declare this congregation now closed.
Congratulations to our new graduates. The attendees applaud our new graduating class. To close the ceremony, the maces are collected from the stage. The mace bearers lead the procession of staff and new graduates out of the Great Hall. The ceremony that completes the university journey for hundreds of Birmingham alumni is now closed. The live stream has now ended.